welcome to WION World is One. You're watching Gravitas with me, Hem Kaur Saroya. Let's take a look at what we've lined up for you on the show tonight. As though nearly 3 years of a brutal, unrelenting war were not enough, the Russia-Ukraine war appears to have entered an even darker, complicated phase. The war-torn country is on the brink of collapse. I will get you all the latest on this on the show tonight. Also on the show, the fentanyl war between the United States and China has begun, with 10% tariffs on Chinese exports set to go into effect by the 1st of February as per US President Donald Trump. And Uyghurs in Thailand are currently facing risk of deportation to China. We will get you all this and more on the show tonight. Let's get started. Our top story tonight is about Ukraine. Its war with Russia has reached a bad place. After nearly 3 years of relentless Russian assaults, the front line of this war-torn country is on the brink of collapse. Daily, Ukrainian forces are losing ground to Russian attacks. Servicemen are breaking ranks over calls to continue fighting, and soldiers are abandoning the front lines. Now, facing setbacks, desertions, and the prospect of a potential settlement with Russia that could be influenced by Donald Trump, Ukraine has decided to hold its military commanders accountable. In the latest developments, 2 generals and a colonel have been held responsible for the loss of territory in eastern Ukraine, areas that were captured by Russian forces last spring. This action comes as public pressure mounts in Ukraine against its military leadership. Ukraine's security service, known as the SBU, announced that the 3 former commanders, 2 generals and 1 colonel, have been accused of failing to protect Kharkiv in northeastern Ukraine from the advances of Russian forces. The SBU did not disclose the names of those detained, but shared their ranks in the units they commanded at the time. The former Ukrainian commanders are accused of failing to build adequate fortifications and properly equip defense positions. Moreover, they're charged with making other mistakes that led to Russia seizing a significant portion of Ukrainian territory where fierce fighting is currently underway. As mentioned earlier, their arrests come amid growing public pressure for action against commanders seen as incompetent or careless. Desertions have been rising in the Ukrainian army, with soldiers fleeing from the war. In fact, those who leave their units without permission often cite disagreements with their commanders as the key reason for their departure. The unnamed Ukrainian colonel is under scrutiny for the actions of 12 soldiers in his battalion who reportedly left their posts. Separately, the commander of Ukraine's 155th Brigade has been arrested because a large number of his brigade members went absent without leave. This at a time when Ukraine was already going through a manpower shortage amid fierce fighting with the Russians. But that's not all. Ukraine is also grappling with corruption within its military ranks. Time and again, reports have surfaced of widespread bribery among military officials, especially medical commissioners, who have the authority to grant draft exemptions. The SBU announced the arrest of the country's chief military psychiatrist, revealing that he had accumulated over $1 million since the onset of the war. His assets include several properties and 4 BMWs. The commanders accused of crimes could face prison sentences of up to 10 years, with the SBU indicating its intention to seek pre-trial detention for those arrested as a preventive measure. We're not surprised. Just look at the number of news reports talking about low morale among Ukrainian soldiers. There's also been an increase in reports of troops either fleeing the conflict or going completely absent without official leave. Many soldiers have expressed that their commanding officers are sending them into situations where their chances of survival are minimal. A term often used to explain the situation is called meat grinder. Meat grinder, a term that has become synonymous with Ukraine war. Meanwhile, during the World Economic Forum in Davos, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made a pitch for Europe, asking it to remain strong and united amidst changing US leadership.
And we need a united European security and defense policy, and all European countries must be willing to spend as much on security as it truly needed, not just as much as they have gotten used to during years of neglect. If it takes 5% of GDP to cover defense, then so be it.
Now, that speech came following the swearing in of Donald Trump as US president. Remember, Trump has been pushing for settlement of the Ukraine war. He has been extremely critical of former President Biden for supplying military aid to Ukraine. Let's not forget his pre-poll promise of ending the Ukraine war. Just yesterday, he took an unusually critical stance on the Kremlin, threatening Russia with sanctions if it refuses to engage in talks on settling the Ukraine war. Trump has said he would meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin, and the details are being arranged for the same. During a press briefing, he said, and I'm quoting here, "The war between Ukraine and Russia should have never started." When reminded that he had promised to end the war in Ukraine within 24 hours of being in office, he jokingly replied, I'm quoting again, "I have another half day left. We'll see. We want to get it done." As far as Ukraine is concerned, Trump said Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has told him he wants to make a deal. Recent comments from Kyiv have showed that they are open to diplomacy provided it creates a sustainable end to the war. And Zelensky had welcomed Trump's inauguration, calling the US president a strong man. But Trump's assertion that he wants to meet Putin suggests Trump is confident that he may be able to forge a diplomatic path. In fact, his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has also said that Trump will begin working on a ceasefire agreement for Ukraine, quote-unquote, almost immediately. Speaking to reporters soon after being confirmed by the Senate, the new US Secretary of State said that Ukraine will be the top priority for Trump and that the war needs to end. Rubio insisted that both Ukraine and Russia will have to concede something as part of any deal, without elaborating on what such concessions would look like. Question is, either side's in any mood to concede? We'll have to wait and watch. We now turn our attention to the West Bank, where at least 10 Palestinians have been killed and nearly 40 injured by Israeli forces. During a major operation in the Jenin area of West Bank, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called this a large-scale and significant military operation. Under the campaign Operation Iron Wall, linking the latest offensive to Israel's wider battle against Iranian-backed groups in the region, including in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria and Yemen. Meanwhile, the pressure on Hamas to share power with Fatah in Gaza continues to grow, raising questions. Do Netanyahu and Hamas need the war to survive? But first, here's what has happened in the West Bank. According to reports, a large number of Israeli troops entered West Bank and its refugee camp in Jenin, backed by drones, helicopters and armoured bulldozers. According to Kamal Abu Al-Rub, Jenin's governor, Israeli forces came out suddenly with helicopters in the sky and military vehicles everywhere, bulldozing all the roads leading to the Jenin camp. As the operation began, Palestinian forces reportedly withdrew from the refugee camp, and the sound of heavy gunfire could be heard across the camp. As per various reports, most of the casualties were civilians.
What they failed to achieve in Gaza, they are trying to make up for it here in Jenin. Not only in Jenin. Jenin is the title of resistance and fighting. If they finish the resistance in Jenin, they will finish it in all the West Bank.
An IDF official told the Times of Israel that Jenin operation is expected to last several days, which could potentially mean more violence in the West Bank. Israel's operations in West Bank comes just 4 days after the start of a ceasefire in Gaza. In a statement, Netanyahu said the operation in Jenin was an additional step in achieving the objective of quote-unquote bolstering security in the West Bank, adding that Israel is still active and acting against the Iranian axis in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen and the West Bank. Netanyahu's point of being still active perhaps only reiterates that he needs war to stay in power. Now, why are we saying this? Because there have been various reports, both in the past and recently, highlighting how Netanyahu is likely to lose power if an election is held in Israel. According to an Israeli survey conducted just last month, Netanyahu's rivals would win a Knesset majority if elections were held, with the margin further rising if a multi-party ran for elections, with former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett as its leader. But here's the catch: without peace, there can be no elections. And without elections, Netanyahu continues to remain in power. Meanwhile, Hamas is also in a similar predicament. Last month, Hamas and the Palestinian Authority's Fatah party announced that they'd agreed to create a committee to jointly administer post-war Gaza. While Gaza is currently under a ceasefire, there are reports of pressure growing on Hamas to share power with Fatah. Just last Friday, the Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas said that the Fatah-controlled government body is ready to assume, and I'm quoting, full responsibility when the ceasefire begins. Hamas is yet to respond to Abbas's comments. Recent reports and comments from West Asia experts highlighted that only a minority of Palestinians support Hamas. So the questions that arise are, will Hamas share power with Abbas, even partially? Or like Netanyahu, will Hamas bank on the war to keep them in power? Only time will tell. Meanwhile, in Tel Aviv, 4 people were stabbed and wounded by a man who was later shot dead. Police identified the attacker as a 28-year-old Moroccan national, Abdelaziz Qadi. According to an ID that was found on his body, the assailant was a US green card holder. The stabbing happened in a bustling nightlife spot of Israel's commercial capital. Police said a terrorist with a knife started stabbing people on the street, wounding 4 civilians. He was then shot by security forces at the scene. Qadi reportedly entered Israel on the 18th of January with a tourist visa. He was flagged by security when he arrived in the country but was nonetheless granted entry. Israeli Interior Minister said that immigration officials had identified Qadi as a threat at Ben Gurion Airport and sought to bar him from entering. And he was handed over to security officials for questioning as well. But they decided to allow his entry into Israel. Now, the Shin Bet is investigating this decision. All right, and Trump has just propelled the US AI community into a new era with a $500 billion investment and fewer regulations. The goal? To establish America as an AI superpower and, most importantly, to stay ahead of China. On his first full day at the White House yesterday, Trump unveiled a $100 billion joint venture to fund AI infrastructure, including data centers. The plan, led by OpenAI, SoftBank and Oracle, aims to raise that amount to at least $500 billion. Already, OpenAI has proposed building 5 gigawatt data centers, which could supply enough electricity for entire cities. That's a big announcement. It reflects Trump's approach, which is prioritizing America regardless of its impact on the environment. You see, over the past 2 years, under former President Joe Biden, the US government maintained a careful balance regarding artificial intelligence. The White House took measures to ensure that the US remained at the forefront of AI development while also addressing some of its potential risks. However, America has a new president now. In his first 24 hours back in office, Donald Trump sent a different message to the AI community: just build. On Monday, Trump rescinded Biden's sweeping executive order on AI. The move immediately halted implementation of certain safety and transparency requirements for AI developers. By rolling back safety and transparency rules for AI developers, what has he essentially done? Trump has removed important safeguards for a technology that can be both revolutionary and potentially dangerous. And of course, the tech industry welcomed Trump's decision. Some tech leaders attending the World Economic Forum in Davos praised Trump's approach. But experts have expressed concerns about a future dominated by AI without the right regulations. Trump is anticipated to issue a new executive order on AI. But reports say that he might adopt a more lenient approach. On Tuesday, Trump announced a collaborative venture led by SoftBank Group Co., OpenAI and Oracle Co., which will allocate billions of dollars towards AI infrastructure. Trump was joined by SoftBank's Masayoshi Son, along with tech executives such as Sam Altman and Larry Ellison, to unveil this project. Son indicated that the venture will immediately invest $100 billion, with plans to increase that amount, as I mentioned earlier, to $500 billion for various AI projects. Pardon me, that's $100 billion at the moment, and with plans to increase the amount to at least $500 billion for various projects, including data centers and physical computers and campuses. Son characterized this joint initiative as the beginning of a golden age. Ellison said the data centers are currently being built, including one in Texas. Before taking office, Trump had said that he wanted to open up investment opportunities for wealthy individuals in AI plants designed to power data centers. Experts saw this as showing little concern for the environmental impact of the energy sources that are used. But through these initial efforts, it seems Trump is not only re-evaluating the US strategy on AI, but is also distancing himself from Europe, on potentially leading to a conflict over how to regulate AI and compete with China. You see, the European Union has already raised concerns among major AI companies by enforcing stricter legislation on privacy and safety. In contrast, the US under Trump has engaged prominent tech figures, including billionaire Elon Musk and venture capitalist David Sachs, to help shape technology and AI policies. Could the degree of leniency in Trump's AI strategy depend on Musk's influence? Musk has a complex perspective on AI. While he has invested in the technology through his startup XAI, he's also warned about its existential risks if not managed properly. But even though most tech leaders have hailed Trump's AI strategy, some are cautious. As for China, Chinese startup DeepSeek has unveiled an AI model that it says is competitive with OpenAI's technology. TikTok's Chinese owner ByteDance is reported to be investing billions in AI infrastructure, while Huawei is flaunting its own AI chips. Meanwhile, Europe, left out of the discussion, is languishing on the sidelines without a similar AI champion. As a result, Europe's efforts to champion AI regulation looking more like an outdated concept. But one thing's for sure, a race to harness AI is on. The question is, will we control AI or will AI end up controlling us? All right, nations around the world are investing heavily in increasing their missile arsenal. As nuclear threats escalate across the globe, Donald Trump wants to build an advanced missile defense system which is capable of countering the growing capabilities of Russia, China and North Korea. Our next story explores why America needs an Iron Dome. Take a look.
The world is more dangerous now than during Trump's first term. North Korea aggressively advances its nuclear and missile programs, likely encouraged by Russia. Russia's war in Ukraine has pushed US-Russia relations to their lowest since the Cold War. Both Washington and Moscow are deploying long-range missile systems as deterrents. But right now, it's the rhetoric which is speaking. Amid such threats growing, America's existing missile defense systems, while advanced, face critical limitations. Currently, the US relies on a layered defense network that includes THAAD, Aegis and Patriot systems. Together, these systems protect against ballistic and hypersonic missile threats. However, experts warn they may not be enough to counter emerging technologies and long-range missile strikes, particularly ICBMs armed with nuclear warheads. The strategic calculus is clear. US missile defense capabilities, while sophisticated, were designed for a different era. Today's threats, hypersonic weapons, multiple warhead systems and advanced decoys demand a new approach. The new US president wants an American Iron Dome to close these critical vulnerability gaps.
I will direct our military to begin construction of the Great Iron Dome missile defense shield, which will all be made in the USA. And we will get wokeness the hell out of our military immediately and make it like it used to be.
Robert Sufer, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Nuclear and Missile Defense, says the US must act urgently to upgrade its systems. The plan involves significant investment in advanced technology, new production facilities, and the integration of innovative weaponry into the current infrastructure. Yet challenges remain. Ensuring compatibility with existing systems and maintaining cost-effectiveness will test the feasibility of Trump's vision. The stakes are high and the timeline is tight. As global tensions escalate, Trump's Iron Dome could redefine America's missile defense strategy or fall short under the weight of its ambition. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And a remote village in Jammu and Kashmir's Rajouri district is gripped by fear. A mysterious illness has claimed 17 lives in Badhal village. That has left the entire region on edge as authorities scramble for answers. Badhal has been declared a containment zone and strict prohibitory orders now ban all public and private gatherings. The village has been divided into 3 containment zones. The first zone includes families that have already experienced deaths. The second zone isolates individuals identified as close contacts who are being shifted to Government Medical College for continuous health monitoring. And the third zone covers the rest of the village. Officials are reportedly enforcing strict measures, from food monitoring to round-the-clock police deployment. This outbreak began on the 7th of December last year. 5 deaths were reported that day and the toll has steadily risen. The most recent victim, a young girl, succumbed just days ago at the SMGS hospital in Jammu. Chief Minister Omar Abdullah visited the village on Tuesday, prompting the fresh containment steps. Meanwhile, India's Home Ministry has sent an 11-member team to investigate the matter. This team includes experts from premier medical institutions like AIIMS Delhi and the Indian Institute of Virology Pune, among others.
Big agencies have arrived here. Our investigative agencies are present. Forensic departments from Chandigarh, Lucknow and a team sent by the MHA are working towards the purpose of finding the reasons for the mishap. I think such big agencies will tell us the reasons for this incident in the coming days.
Now, experts have collected samples, but the findings reportedly remain inconclusive. The symptoms of the victims include fever, sweating, rapid deterioration. No viral or bacterial infections have been identified so far, while neurotoxins were reportedly detected in some victims. Now, neurotoxins are chemicals that disrupt the nervous system and are suspected to be a factor. But what's causing them? That remains unclear. Meanwhile, the administration has sealed a local water spring because tests revealed traces of pesticides and insecticides in water. A special investigation team of the J&K police, meanwhile, is also probing the case, looking into possible criminal angles, questioning suspects and examining mobile data. However, no significant breakthroughs have been reported so far, as the mystery of the illness continues to be a major cause of concern. Now, with Donald Trump back in the Oval Office, the trade wars, or should I say the fentanyl wars, seem to have begun. Donald Trump has reignited trade tensions with China by threatening to impose 10% tariff on Chinese imports starting the 1st of February. The reason? He says it's for sending fentanyl to Mexico and Canada. Speaking at a White House press conference, Trump asserted that China is supplying fentanyl to Mexico and Canada, which is fueling a deadly opioid epidemic in the United States. Listen to this.
We're talking about a tariff of 10% on China based on the fact that they're sending fentanyl to Mexico and Canada.
How soon on those tariffs?
Probably February 1st is the date we're looking at.
He also mentioned potential tariffs of up to 25% on imports from Mexico and Canada, blaming both countries for allowing the flow of fentanyl and illegal migration into the United States. Trump also says that during a conversation with Chinese President Xi Jinping, he did urge China to take stronger action against fentanyl traffickers, recalling an earlier agreement under his administration that would have imposed the death penalty for drug dealers. He even criticized the Biden administration for failing to enforce this agreement, stating that he said, and I'm quoting here, "I had the deal all wrapped up, but Biden didn't pick it up." Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid considered to be up to 50 times stronger than heroin and has been a major driver of the U.S. overdose crisis, claiming 75,000 American lives in the year 2023 alone. The drug, often mixed with other substances, poses a significant public health challenge, with an estimated 200 Americans dying from fentanyl-related overdoses daily. As you would have probably guessed by now, China is not too happy about this. China has vowed to protect its national interests, warning that any new US tariffs would face strong countermeasures. Beijing, of course, has denied allegations of state involvement in fentanyl trafficking and has in fact emphasized its efforts to curb illegal drug exports. Now let me give you some background to this trade war between the United States and China. It began during Trump's first term over alleged unfair trade practices. During this time, tariffs were imposed on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods. While President Joe Biden maintained several of Trump's tariffs and introduced restrictions on Chinese access to advanced technology, Trump is now doubling down with even harsher measures. But how effective will these tariffs be? As per reports, there has been an impact, but perhaps not the one the current administration was hoping for. Reportedly, Chinese exports to the United States have continued to rise. In 2024, total exports to American companies grew by 4%, reaching $401 billion in the first 11 months of the year. Meanwhile, US imports into China declined by over 11%, further widening the trade deficit. While Trump's proposed tariffs aim to pressure China into taking more responsibility, this strategy is yet to yield the desired economic results. Instead, US businesses have increased their imports from China ahead of the potential tariff hikes, the date for which is currently set for the 1st of February as per the US president. As the fentanyl war intensifies, Trump's tariff threats add further uncertainty, not just with regards to relations with Mexico, Canada and China, but also to the global trade landscape. And our next story is about 18-year-old Trump Jr. He's leading a wealth drive. Barron Trump, Donald Trump's youngest son, seems to be following in his father's footsteps with plans to launch a luxury real estate business. At just 18, Barron set up Trump, Fulcher and Roxburgh Capital Inc. in Wyoming with two young partners in July. However, the company was dissolved 4 months later, coinciding with his father's electoral victory. The venture had listed Mar-a-Lago, Trump's primary residence in Palm Beach, Florida, as its main address. Now it's expected to relaunch this spring after a pause to avoid media scrutiny linked to the elections. According to reports, Cameron Roxburgh, one of the co-founders and a former classmate of Barron, has said that the company will eventually focus on high-end real estate projects, including golf courses and properties in states like Utah, Arizona and Idaho. Which brings us to the third founder, that's Carter Fulcher. He has ties to a significant real estate firm in Idaho. He is also a cousin of Congressman Russ Fulcher, who has said that he is not involved in the business. As far as help from his father goes, it seems that apart from receiving some private advice from President Trump regarding the business, Trump Jr.'s business has no financial support from the Trump Organization. Trump, remember, has built his brand around luxury properties. He's also passed down the family real estate legacy to his older children, Donald Jr. and Eric, who currently manage the Trump Organization. While there are no US laws mandating presidents to divest from their business interests, the Trump Organization has announced that Donald Trump would refrain from managing his real estate company during his time as President of the United States. And experts say that Barron's business dealings could pose a challenge for his father only if the president invests or has a financial interest in them without disclosing such relationships. Until turning 18 last year, Barron Trump was shielded by a media blackout. A business student at New York University, Barron Trump was seen during the inauguration ceremony for his father in the Capitol Rotunda, where he greeted both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. At lunch, he was seen talking to Jeff Bezos, one of the wealthiest men in the world. Later, at the victory parade, Barron was also seen interacting with the crowd leading some social media users to speculate about a possible political future for him as well. All right, let's shift our focus now. Our next story is about the Uyghurs in Thailand, who are currently facing the risk of deportation to China. On Wednesday, the United Nations urged Thailand to immediately halt the deportation of 48 Uyghurs trapped in the country's detention centers to China, warning that the group could face torture or inhumane treatment if they are returned. Responding to the United Nations, Thai authorities have denied any claims of immediate deportation of the Uyghurs. However, pressure has been mounting on Thailand, including from the new US administration over the detention of Uyghurs for over a decade now. According to reports, 48 men from the Uyghur community, a distinct ethnic minority, predominantly Muslims from China's Xinjiang region, were arrested by Thai authorities almost 11 years ago after they crossed the border to Thailand in an attempt to escape persecution in China. On Tuesday, Rushan Abbas, Executive Director of Campaign for Uyghurs, alongside members of the Japan Uyghur Association, raised alarm over the dire situation of the group in Thailand in the Japanese parliament. In a post on X, Campaign for Uyghurs stated that they urge Japan to take action and do everything possible to help end the oppression of the Chinese Communist Party, or the CCP, on the Uyghurs. After Thai officials denied deportation plans, on Wednesday, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said, and I'm quoting, that the matter involves judicial cooperation between two sovereign states. What's more, this has also drawn the attention of the new Trump administration, with US Secretary of State Marco Rubio promising to press Thailand against the deportation of Uyghurs. You see, time and again, human rights groups and campaigners have alerted that Uyghur detainees were held in life-threatening conditions without access to lawyers, family members, or UN representatives, with some reports even suggesting the death of 5 detainees, including a newborn. What explains this? As per the Human Rights Watch, the detainees lived among poor hygiene conditions as well as received inadequate medical care, something which has been flagged time and time again. So much so that their living conditions have been described as hell on earth. And the recent moves by the Thai immigration officials, including asking detainees to complete new paperwork and photographing them. They've now raised speculations of their forcible transfer. Flashbacks of 2015, when Thailand deported 100 Uyghurs to China, sparking severe international outcry. With all eyes now on Thailand, what will become of the fate of the Uyghurs? We'll have to wait and see what lies ahead. Now, Donald Trump's return has sparked frenzy across various markets. Space stocks are among the biggest beneficiaries, with companies like Redwire and Rocket Lab seeing massive gains. Trump's promise to send astronauts to Mars has boosted industry sentiment. Redwire's $1 billion acquisition of Edge Autonomy has driven its stock up by 51%. Viasat also surged 33% after securing a key NASA communications contract. Analysts point to 3 key factors behind the rally: the appointment of Jared Isaacman to head NASA, the anticipated influx of federal contracts, and heightened excitement around private space ventures post-Trump 2.0. With the administration backing innovation in space, this sector is poised to continue its upward climb. AI investments are also surging, with President Trump unveiling the $500 billion Stargate joint venture. Oracle, as I mentioned, OpenAI and SoftBank plan to deploy $100 billion immediately to establish cutting-edge data centers, aiming to keep the US ahead in the global AI race.
Together, these world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books. because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States and very, very quickly, moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately. This monumental undertaking is a resounding declaration of confidence in America's potential under a new president. Let me be a new president. I didn't say it, they did. So I appreciate that, fellas.
Major AI players including Nvidia and Microsoft saw major gains following the news. Energy demand is following suit. Clean energy provider Vistra's stock has quadrupled over the past year as AI-driven data centers seek sustainable power solutions. Experts predict a wave of AI-related investments reinforcing tech dominance in the US market. Cryptocurrencies also rallied amid optimism around Trump's pro-crypto stance. Market sentiment was bolstered by promises of a clear regulatory framework and federal crypto adoption. The SEC's newly launched Crypto Task Force aims to ensure investors' protection and regulatory clarity. Analysts, though, warn of volatility and caution retail investors against rushing into the market, citing risks of poor timing and the fear of missing out. While the promise of a supportive policy environment excites the sector, experts urge restraint and informed decision-making in the face of crypto's unpredictable swings. As the family expands its reach in the tech and crypto markets, Baron Trump is stepping into his own business, as I mentioned earlier, a new luxury real estate venture. Baron plans to focus on high-end properties and golf courses in prime locations, you know that, Utah and Idaho, though independent of the Trump organization. Meanwhile, Melania's meme stocks and Trump's pro-crypto stance have sparked a retail trading frenzy, pushing Bitcoin to new heights. With just the second day in office, Donald Trump's second term is already showing glimpses of what's to come. Now, let me ask you a question. If you had to pick between the freedom to lead your life the way you want and earning money, what would you rather choose? Sounds tricky? We feel you. Especially when it becomes nearly impossible to escape the work-life balance debate. It's literally everywhere. While most seem to prefer a healthy mix of both, as per an annual international survey of thousands of employees, the choice is clearer than ever. And no, it's not money. International recruitment company Randstad has recently published its 2025 Work Monitor report. And for the first time in the Dutch firm's 22-year history of reviews, finding or keeping work that fits one the best has outranked pay. As per the survey, for nearly 83% of the 26,000 workers surveyed across 35 countries, work-life balance mattered more than drawing a salary. Also in line with job security. What led to this? You see, experts suggest the COVID pandemic led to a sort of cooperation revolution, with many also opting for remote or hybrid work models. Work these days is way more than just a paycheck, with workers demanding more from their employers in terms of flexible working conditions, job satisfaction and more. Even in the face of economic challenges and technological changes, where innovations such as AI are increasingly threatening to take away human jobs, all said and done, modern workers are making a conscious decision, where compensation is important, but so are other parameters that contribute to their overall well-being. And this needs to be hailed rather than normalized. So next time anyone asks you about this, you know the answer. And India is welcoming 3 blockbuster weight loss drugs. Wegovy, Ozempic from Novo Nordisk, and tirzepatide from Eli Lilly. These medications are already a hit in the West and are poised to disrupt the Indian pharma market now. Eli Lilly is gearing up to launch tirzepatide. Novo Nordisk plans to prepone Wegovy's debut, sensing strong competition. Both companies, though, are eyeing India's growing obesity problem. Domestic players are also racing to develop affordable generics. In the West, these drugs transformed obesity care and raked in billions. Novo Nordisk's share price quadrupled in 5 years, and the company became more valuable than Denmark's GDP. India's obesity numbers tell a sobering tale. A Lancet study reports 70 million clinically obese adults. Experts also highlight the growing demand for these medications, noting increased patient queries. But affordability remains a concern. In the United States, monthly costs range from $968 to $1,350. Eli Lilly has promised competitive pricing but remains tight-lipped about specifics. Will insurance cover them? That's a grey area. Obesity treatments are often excluded from policies, but insurers may reconsider this as obesity's health risks gain recognition. These drugs promise to revolutionize care for type 2 diabetes and severe obesity. Nevertheless, India's pharma market is ready for this shake-up. The question is, will patients be able to afford this health revolution, or will it remain a luxury? That being said, US President Donald Trump has appointed Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as the head of the Department of Health and Human Services. During his inaugural press conference, President Trump emphasized his commitment to tackling chronic illnesses as part of the Make America Healthy Again campaign spearheaded by Kennedy. While the slogan has gained traction, experts argue that many of Kennedy's proposals are rooted in conspiracy theories and misinformation, raising concerns about their potential to improve Americans' health conditions. Kennedy has previously criticized the Food and Drug Administration. He called it a corrupt system and accused it of waging a war on public health. The 71-year-old has pledged to dismantle entire departments within the FDA, hinting layoffs for over 18,000 employees. In the past, he's also spoken out against ingredients that hurt Americans' health. This includes dyes in Fruit Loops cereal to seed oils in chicken nuggets, among others. He's also advocated for eliminating ultra-processed food products, altered to include added fats, starches and sugars like frozen pizzas, crisps and sugary breakfast cereals that are linked to health problems like cancer, cardiovascular diseases and diabetes. As the son of Robert F. Kennedy and nephew of former President John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. brings a legacy of public service. Having spent the early part of his career as an environmental lawyer, it remains to be seen whether he can effectively translate his ambitions into actionable reforms in his new role. Now, the inauguration ceremony for US President Donald Trump was also in a way fashion's best day, with attendees putting their best foot forward. From Melania Trump's striking hat to Usha Vance's statement overcoat to dapper suits donned by billionaire founders, you name it. But if fashion faux pas had a face that day, as per many, it's none other than Lauren Sanchez, a former journalist, who is also, by the way, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos' fiancée, who faced criticism for her choice of outfit at the event. What went wrong? At the event, Sanchez was seen wearing a white blazer and trousers, nothing unusual. However, a lacy corset that she wore underneath that blazer, that became a talking point, and not for the right reasons, unfortunately. Taking to social media, netizens had quite a lot to share, with some calling her clothing choice inappropriate for a formal occasion such as the president's swearing in, while others even questioned her presence at the event altogether. As far as Sanchez is concerned, she's remained indifferent to these comments. All things said and done, fashion is a choice, and while opinions are welcome, it's really upon the wearer what they can pull off with both comfort and confidence. And with that, we call to wrap on this edition of Gravitas. News and updates continue on the other side on WION. World is One. Thank you so much for tuning in. Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm